Welcome to Reset with Raven. I am the host, Raven M. Harris, and this channel is real conversations with people who have successfully navigated the reset. This is for anyone looking to make a pivot, a shift, or a change in their life and seeking to reinvent themselves, rebrand themselves in career, business, and life. And today I have none other than Loran Nathan Spence II. He has worked professionally in food services for over 10 years and is trained in the culinary arts. He makes a mean, finger-licking good pound cake. He is a recent graduate of mortuary school, currently serving as an apprentice funeral director and embalmer, and will be licensed in February, just in a few days of this year. Fun fact about Loran, he is the second of 13 children. Last and most importantly, not least, he is one of my favorite people on the planet. He is my cousin. So yes, welcome, Loran. So happy to have you.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So this channel is all about resets, and we're talking tonight with Loran about his most recent reset. And one of those is going back to school. So Loran, tell the people what led you to going back to school.
First of all, thanks again for having me. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Going back to school was encouraged by a couple things. For one, as you know, I had a journey where I was 420 pounds and I went through an extreme weight loss in my life. I underwent gastric bypass surgery back in 2010. And I was able to maintain such a significant amount of weight. And that for me was a personal motivation to not just go back to school, but to just set a goal in general and be able to accomplish it. So I took that and I figured if I can continue to maintain my stability with my weight and maintain my life in the way it was going, I could definitely overcome going to school. So I went on back to school. I went back to school at 31, and it took me almost 4 years to finish. But I'm of the belief it's not about how you start, but how you end.
Bars.
And so I did graduate April of 2020. And like you stated, I'll be licensed in just a few weeks as a funeral director and embalmer.
That's awesome. Y'all hear that? It's not about how you start, it's about how you end.
Yes,
and I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to the revelation that funeral services was your calling?
Well, for many years, I've always worked multiple jobs, which as a young man was cool. And for the last few years, leading up until this point, funeral service is one of my jobs. And I think it was a matter of understanding, one, that it takes a special person to do this. And two, that you have to be called, I believe, by God to do this. And I realized my calling when I began to see how people responded to the service that I had rendered and how I was able to connect with people. And how, frankly, I was just able to deal with death, dying, and grief every day and be able to support people. So I think it was a response that I got from people as I entered the industry that really allowed me to believe that I could pursue it on a much grander scale, i.e. going back to school and becoming licensed.
You talked about the response you got from people.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us more about what that response was like and how you felt that it sounds like it gave you fulfillment and that you were able to be there for people in some of their most dark times. So tell us about what was that feeling like and what were some of those responses like?
You know, it's funny because it's not a matter of what was the feeling, it's what is the feeling. And it's a feeling that I get every day. And it's a response that I get every day. You know, for example, today I buried a lady's husband of over 40 something years. And when you can see the pain and you can feel the pain that she's going through and her children and his grandkids and all of the above, and you're able to come in, a complete stranger, and come into their lives for such a short time, but to provide such a powerful impact and to be able to help bring closure. Because you never completely get closure, I don't believe, when someone dies. And I'm not there to give you that closure and completion, but I'm there to help begin the closure process. And so when people come to you and they hug you and they embrace you and they shed tears on your shoulder and they constantly remind you how you've encouraged them and how you've uplifted them. And then when they come back a year and 2 and 3 years later and you see them at someone else's funeral, or you bury another loved one in their family, or they see you about in the mall and at church and wherever you are, and you're constantly reminded of the impact that you've made in their lives and the lives of the people that they love. So it's a constant reminder, and it's those type of things that happen in my initial entrance into funeral service that really allowed me to say, you know what, I believe I can do this. I believe this is for me.
Mm. You talked about impact on lives, and we can't just gloss over. You also talked about faith.
Mm.
Tell me how faith has helped reshape and help direct your reset.
Well, I don't have enough time to tell you all that I've gone through in my life in order for my faith to manifest itself to where it is. What I can tell you is this here, that going back to my weight loss journey, that is and will probably forever be the biggest struggle I have in my life. And the fact that I'm going 11 years strong this July, it's a daily struggle in a sense. And my faith allows me to take that and continue to keep pushing, continue to live a lifestyle that's healthy and meaningful. And I believe that if I was able to overcome that through my faith, then I'm able to overcome anything else and conquer anything else and get through the day's challenges that are before me every day.
Mm, that's big. And one of the things that you touched on, I don't know if you used this word, but I felt it as you were speaking. I felt it in my spirit as you were talking about faith. I heard focus.
Focus. You know, interestingly enough, when I was a child, in elementary school, my teacher, after we would recite the Pledge of Allegiance and the one other anthem, we would have to recite this saying from Dr. Reverend Jesse Jackson, which was part of the his Rainbow Coalition, and it said, "I am somebody. My mind is a pearl. I can do anything in the world." Now, I was in first grade at West Middle Elementary School, and Mrs. Jean McDermott was my elementary instructor at the time. And I never forgot that. And even to this day, 30 something years later, I continue to repeat that. Maybe not every day, but
He
often.
does.
And she can tell you I do. And it really helps me. It encourages me. And that's really my anthem. I am somebody. My mind is a pearl, but I really can do anything in the world. And so that's what I take with me every day.
I love that. And, you know, you've been through several resets. We talked about going back to college at a non-traditional age. Even, I would even say going into funeral services. I think that's a non-traditional even career. And
Sure.
then you talked about, you know, your weight loss journey and making that decision to have a reset on your health. What was that process like in your head to say, you know what, I'm going to take control of my health and my life? Tell us what were you feeling? What were you thinking? And what, you know, gave you that decision to act upon it, to say, you know what, I'm going to live, and I'm going to live a long time, and I'm going to live healthy, and I'm going to do what I need to do for my health and my body.
Well, that's a very good question. As a younger individual, I was always active, but I never was into sports. You know, I was just a big guy. I was a big kid on campus. And but I watched my father and my uncles, who in their younger years were big, but as they got older, began to have issues, diabetes, high blood pressure. My father, in fact, was a double leg amputee, had both his legs amputated as a result of complications to diabetes. One of his other brothers also had an amputation. And if I'm not mistaken, all of my father's brothers, with the exception of one, including my father, all passed prior to the age of 50 years old. And so for me, that was scary. And I looked ahead down the road and I said that if I wanted to live and live a meaningful life, losing the weight was important. And so I just didn't start off at gastric bypass surgery. I did attempt to lose weight on my own. And I lost about 60 or 70 pounds during the process. And then I plateaued. And then depression began to sink in. And so I began to put the weight back on. And I was in my early to mid 20s at that point. So I was going through a lot of stages in life. And so gastric bypass surgery was an alternative that I chose to endeavor at that point. And though I had complications in that process, I still think it to be one of the best decisions I made in my life.
Mm, mm. I have a question for anyone. I think a lot of people start the new year off with new year, new me.
Mhm.
The number one New Year's resolution for like the past, what, 20 something years over and over again is to lose weight. What
Right.
advice or suggestions would you have for anyone who has made a resolution for 2021 to finally change their life? Whether it doesn't have to even be weight loss, it could be even in health. What type of, is it champion mindset or focus would you share with the people that they need to have in order to really conquer their goals and to make sure they don't fall off the wagon? It's just January.
I think that's important. Yes, it is just January, and there are 365 days in a year. So take each one at a time. Take every day at a time. I personally don't set long-term resolutions in reference to this is my goal for the year. I mean, there are some long-term goals, but I try to take it day by day, week by week. Set goals that I know I can achieve in a certain period of time, whether it's saving X amount of dollars over X amount of days or whatever habit it is I'm looking to quit or whatever it is I'm looking to do, set a realistic goal and then have a reason for the goal. Why do you want to do it? What's the desired outcome? And so I think oftentimes we just set goals with no desired outcome. Why do you want to lose weight? For what reason? Well, how much do you want to lose? Where do you want to lose it? If that's your resolution. So I think it's really just about focusing on every day, Raven, one day at a time, and just setting expectations that are realistic.
Mm, mm. That's good. That's good. I think oftentimes we do set expectations that are, I'm sure most people have heard of SMART goals,
Mm-hmm.
and the goals aren't specific, they're not measurable, they're not attainable, they're not realistic, and they're not time bound.
Right.
And when you approach your goals without having a strategy, and when
Mm-hmm.
you approach goals with just throwing things out there, it's very easy to get off track. I actually read something just the other day that said 98% of people fail their resolutions by February. February.
February, right. But
That
what
is
is that?
that's wild to me that it's the shortest month in the year too, to just fall off the wagon by then. And you know, you talked about it being a day by day um, approach to making sure that you're able to to make sure that you're able to stay on your goals and I guess stay on the horse. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have any type of, I'm just curious, morning or daily routine or rituals or mantras, anything that you think has really gotten you through day by day, or even if it's people?
So I'm a believer. Now I listen to all type of music, but I love gospel music. I love a good word, and for the most part, no matter how I end my day, I always start it off on a good note. And so typically every morning I listen to a good word while I shower, while I get dressed, and I find one of my few favorite preachers that I like to listen to, and I take that and I allow that to be my foundation for the day. And so when I'm going through my issues, I often go back to the word that I heard this morning. Sometimes I can't, sometimes the human side kicks in and you forget all about the word. and you create a few choice words of your own, but then you still go back to the word. So that's really what gets me through every day, and especially working in funeral service, working through this pandemic. Um, I have seen and put my hands on more deceased people in a short period of time than I ever have in all of my career. And if I never see the amount of death that I have already seen, I'll be okay. And I think that daily word helps me get through this daily struggle dealing with this pandemic, just in that regards. Never mind other areas of my life.
I love that. I love that. Having a daily word. One of the things that I'm trying daily to continue to adopt is a strong morning routine, starting with my water, my coffee, my
Mhm,
stretching,
mhm.
and my affirmations. And one of them is looking myself in the eye, looking myself in the mirror. And you know what? It feels weird actually. And just repeating, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you. You wouldn't think that something feels that like out of body experience. It feels totally uncomfortable when you're really trying to, when you talked about a good word, you made me think about that song. Sometimes you have to encourage
You
yourself.
have to do it yourself. That's right.
And also too, it makes me think about a book. One of her most famous books, Joyce Meyer has Battlefield of the Mind.
Radical, yeah. Hmm.
The mind is powerful, and what we allow into our brains, what we allow into our thoughts, anything that we allow into our energy and into our environment really affects us. And we talked about faith and focus. How are you protecting your energy and protecting and making sure that you have that laser focus?
I think it goes back to the question of resolutions and goals. I kind of have a tunnel vision in a sense, and I know what my end result is and what I desire. And that's what I focus on. And I navigate through that tunnel until I get to where it is I need to be. Going back to school, I started at the very beginning of the tunnel, right? And I saw the light at the end, but it was a very long road to the end to the light, and I just had to keep pushing. And there were nights I came home, and I mean, I used to talk to you. I'd be up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning after working all day, studying, and there were days where I really wanted to quit. Not quit because I thought it wasn't for me, but quit because the human side kicked in. You say the heck with this. Is it really worth it? I'm tired of can't sleep, up all night. But I knew what the end result was. I knew what the goal in mind was. And so you just keep pushing. And that's why I said earlier, it's not how you start, it's all about how you end. And when you have a strong finish mentality, you really can overcome anything. And so that's what I went into this game with, the game being school. And that was with a strong finish mentality. And that's how I did. And that's how I get through every day. You got to be
I
strong.
love that. I love that. So before we have a strong finish, where can the people find you online? What else do you want to share with the people about you in case they want to roll up and get one of those pound cakes? Where can
Um,
we find you?
well, the easiest way to reach me is through email. I'm on different social media platforms, but if you want to reach me and deal with me directly, it's Original Boss, Original, boss, and then the number is 11 at gmail.com. Um, I'm always available, and you can obviously look me up on Facebook or Instagram. But it was a pleasure talking to you tonight, though. I
Awesome,
appreciate
awesome, awesome.
it.
And final closing question.
Mhm.
What is the greatest lesson you've learned in your resets?
Um, Truthfully, I think the greatest lesson that I've learned is that with faith, all things are possible. Truthfully. And I say that because I do remember when, and I'll leave it there. And so when you can remember when, and you know where your faith has brought you, then you know that with faith, all things are possible. And that's what I've learned from my reset.
And that is a strong finish. With faith, all things are possible.
Yes, ma'am.
That career surrounded by so much death,
Mhm.
Loran has learned so much about life.
That's
Thank
right.
you, everybody, for tuning in, listening. This was great. Again, this was Reset with Raven. We were just, Loran dropped so many gems tonight about faith and focus and staying the road, keeping that laser focus on what you desire and what you know is yours.
Mhm.
And I am Raven M. Harris. This is Reset with Raven, and this is for anyone who is seeking a reset in career, life, or business. You are ready for that transformation, that shift, and that change. And you know what? You are believing for bigger, and you are ready to go from ambition to action. Thank you all, and have a good night.